Hello?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Could you throw some light on what is said about in the Holy Quran about man going forth in search of knowledge? What is the Quran standing on this?
About man
going forth in search of knowledge.
The Holy Quran promotes knowledge as no other book has ever promoted knowledge. So what else do you want to know? I couldn't follow your question. There is no ambiguity about it. The Holy Quran as well as the traditions of the Holy Prophet promote knowledge to such extent that never any religion before promoted knowledge.
So the Quran is guidance in itself.
Huh?
The Quran is guidance in itself for the whole mankind.
Of course it is.
And
so it mentions, Hazrat Rasulullah mentions China. And that is very significant to mention China. Even if you have to go to China to seek knowledge, you go. It has many significances. One, China was far off place, of which an Arabian could never think of, which place could not be reached by an Arabian at that time.
Has the word knowledge been used in the Holy Quran?
Huh?
Has the word knowledge been used in the Holy Quran? As you understand it?
So often, so repeatedly, that the word Alim, Sifat, Allah's attribute, is so extensively used in the Holy Quran that one is surprised. And if you put all the books together, in the name of religion, whichever books have been revealed or thought to be revealed, and count the words Alim or any word pertaining to knowledge, the Holy Quran would exceed in number of that mention. So it's so extensively used, the word Ilm and Alim, that no other book can compare, and they jointly cannot compare with the Holy Quran in this regard.
Assalamualaikum.
Yes.
Hazrat, there is a hadith. Ibn Umar relates, I had a wife whom I loved and my father disliked her. He asked me to divorce her, which I refused. When we mentioned the matter to the Holy Prophet, and he said to me, you had better divorce her. Could you please explain this hadith? Because I feel that these were in a very weak position.
It in fact started from Hazrat Abraham. Hazrat Abraham, according to Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, left a message for his son to change, to divorce the first wife and have another wife. And the message was symbolically left, so the wife, who was in fact the bearer of message, couldn't understand that message. And the reason was her being irreligious and of its moral standard, which was much below the expected standard of the house of a prophet. So these were the two reasons why he told his son to change the wife. And these are the main reasons for which a father can advise the boy to divorce a wife and go for another one. Never for another reason. This is in fact the only reason. And Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself has explained that when you go for the choice of a wife, always go for deen. If there is a clash in deen, then it's not just the husband and wife which are affected, but the whole future generation can be destroyed. So for that reason, sentimental values have to be sacrificed over this more important issue, which affects your progeny for generation after generation. So that is the reason why Hazrat Abraham did, that is the reason why Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam must have advised the son to abide by the father's advice. Because he knew that person and maybe his wife as well. And he knew also the father who advised his son to do that. And having that knowledge which is not available to us, the conclusion drawn by Hudud Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not have been based on anything else. So my conclusion is based on the Prophet's behavior and the Prophet's teaching. Because of that, keeping that background in mind, I am very certain that that must have been the reason and no other reason why Rasul told that son to abide by the father's advice. Yes, please.
The two hills that Hazrat Hajar ran on have been now modified into marble. Do you think that they should have been left in their original shape so that we can suffer and feel the pain as Hazrat Hajar did?
I could follow you the second part of your question, but not the first one. Have you followed what she said in the beginning? What should be left intact without interference?
She said Safa Marwa, the two hills that Hazrat Hajar
Yes.
on have now been modified into marble. Do you
Into
marble?
Modified into marble. I mean, they have been built with marble and the whole.
The flooring has been made by marble.
The flooring has been quite right. You have been there?
Yes.
This is what I said.
She says that, do you think...
That means the hills have been paved with marble. That is what she wants to say.
No, the question she wants to ask is, do you think that they should have been left in their original shape? So that...
No, why should I think so? The fact is that it depends on how many people visit that area and what is the necessity of time. If marble or any other metal road is necessary, there is no harm in providing such roads to the people who come now in such large numbers, as it would not be possible for the dust road to take the pressure. Yes, please now.
Please, the Holy Quran uses the expression guide, and this has been explained extensively also in commentaries and so on. But then the question that...
Which commentaries?
I've read commentaries on the Holy Quran issued by Yemen, where they mentioned God and the angels and the prophets.
But as far as my impression is concerned, it has not yet been extensively explained, and quite a few avenues are left untouched. So this is why, during a question a few days ago, during an answer to a question a few days ago, I told them that I intend to give a full sermon on this issue. It's a very interesting word, where. How and why the Holy Quran employs it. That's very important. And also the fact that the Holy Quran is unique in the use of this word. No other religious book uses this word. And it is also very strange. Why should one believe in where? What is the reason? All that is a very interesting, it will make a very interesting commentary on the Holy Quran. But sometime later, please. Yes, Doctor, will you have, after all your questions?
So you kindly explained in one of the previous sessions that when the body of, after the death of a person, the spirit departs from the body, and of course the body is left to disintegrate afterwards behind. What is the philosophy in giving bath, ghusl, to the body? And secondly, please correct me if I am misinformed, that it is not imperative to give bath to the body of a martyr. Is it true, sir?
Yes. The first thing is that it is not for the sake of the body that the bath is given. It is for the sake of human values that the bath is given. And the human values are concerned both with the dead man and with the living. It is out of respect for the dead man to keep him clean and so that people who come and visit or who take him to the grave, they don't have a repulsion of the body. It should be neat and clean and good smelling. Otherwise, if you take the body as such, leave the body as such, it may smell so badly sometimes, may stink, that even the nearest and loving relations would run away from that. So, for the respect to the deceased person, it's highly important that he should be buried in the best possible form, so that a good memory is left behind. And out of the respect for the sentiments of those whom he has left, it's also important that their love should be given some expression, and that expression is given in that. Thirdly, cleanliness is a habit inculcated by Islam in Islamic society so extensively, although it has been totally or almost totally abandoned by the present day Muslim societies of many countries. But still, nothing can be gainsaid of this fact that Islam is the one religion which lays greatest stress on cleanliness. So that teaching in general, in principle, also requires that treatment. The second part is why shuhada are not given any ghusl. Because the body may be severed into pieces or broken in such shape that ghusl would create an opposite result, and it may enhance the process of decay instead of checking it. And moreover, they are not a sight to be washed anyway. So the bodies are sometimes left in such shattered state that it's not proper to handle them in any other way, just to assemble them together and bury them without any ceremonies. Yes, please. Just a moment. Mr. Laik, is your Rafiq? Rafiq's question is pending since last night.
That's right. My question relates to a subject that you discussed a few days ago, where you mentioned that after 1,000 years, the moral and spiritual state of the human race would have deteriorated so much that they will be ready for the day of Qiyamah. My question is that it has been a tradition of God that every time when the human race reaches that...
Yes, I follow your question.
Yes, thank you.
You mean to say that it is the custom of, it is an established custom of Allah that whenever human race goes astray, then Allah sends some reformer and tries to save the race from ultimate destruction, moral and spiritual destruction. That is apparent from the study of the past history of the prophets. Why then the race would be abandoned ultimately after 1,000 years or so, or 900 years from now at least? The reason is that once a thing reaches its culmination, then it's abandoned if it doesn't stay there. Previous races, previous religions have been abandoned ultimately, and no prophets were sent to them because they had reached the summit of their objective. The purpose for which they were created was achieved. After that, when they went astray, they were deserted by Allah and left abandoned. For example, each religious movement reached a culmination, and it was never left without its attaining the final goal. Judaism, Christianity was of course the culmination of Judaism in a manner, But when it was complete, then when the people went astray again, they were rejected by Allah. New religions were sent. New movements were initiated by Allah. So, in the case of Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is the entire race now which is involved. And the culmination of his message was to be achieved in 2 steps, as the Holy Quran itself clarifies and the tradition speaks voluminously on this subject. One, the first phase, that is the coming of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And second, the phase of the coming of Messiah, when the whole mankind was ultimately to accept Islam. So mankind now, not a race, not a people, not a country, but the entire mankind has reached the culmination, the summit point. Then when mankind rejects Islam after all accepting it, then it would be rejected as a race completely. And the same treatment will be meted out to mankind which had been meted out to nations as such previously. No difference. Yes, please.
Could you please explain what is meant by Al-Kitab and who are the believers in Al-Kitab? Are they the persons or the people who believe in the revealed book?
That's right. You're quite right.
It's right.
Yes, welcome.
The Quran states that when performing tayammum, one must use pure dust. What cleansing property does dust have?
Should we use dust when we're making the tayammum? What significance?
It's only a reminder that you should have ablution before appearing before God in worship. When water is not available, then it works, tayammum just works as a reminder and for concentration of your attention. It reminds you that you are going to now stand before Allah, you have no water, so you must make do without it. Otherwise, practically it doesn't serve a purpose, other than this reminder and drawing your attention to the fact that now concentrate upon appearing before Allah. Yes, please, so Zahir. Oh, sorry, before you, this young child. Little child. Huh? Walaikum Salam.
Please, could you tell me why is there a turban on your head?
Please, could you tell me why you don't have a turban on your head? First tell me this and then I'll tell you. Can you give me a reason why? No? I can give you one. From my wearing turban. I have seen Khulafa before me, Khalifatul Masih before me, and the Khalifatul Masih before me, and the Khalifatul Masih before him. And also Hazrat Masih Maud. They all wore turban. So because if for nothing else, out of my love and respect for them, I wear turban. Right? So why don't you now tell me? Please sit down. Now go ahead.
I read a hadith yesterday and I could not follow that. لم يقدر إبراهيم إلا خلقه.
Yakzib. Sorry. Oh, Yakzib, you said.
I couldn't understand that, whether the hadith is right or in what sense the hadith is.
Yes, I'll explain. There is a very interesting hadith which says that Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ did not tell lies except for 3 times. On this, I have delivered a full khutbah. The nature of those lies is the key to the solution of this hadith. The lies mentioned are things which are not lies at all. So that is a way of absolving Hazrat Ibrahim of allegations against him. As if Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us that these are the three lies attributed to Ibrahim. And when you study the lies, they are not lies at all. There is no element of falsehood in those statements which Hazrat Ibrahim made. So that's one reason, and there are other aspects which I explained in my photo.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes?
Hazur, we read in the Surah Izaja, Nasrullah wal Fatah, that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked by Allah to say Astaghfar. Whereas in Sirat Mahdi, I have read all those parts of Sirat Mahdi.
I know what you mean. Hazrat Maulvi Sherli Sahib, now, was it, who said that I never heard?
Yes, Hazrat Maulvi Sherli Sahib.
I know what you mean. Please sit down. That is one tradition. One narration which I didn't like at all in that book. And when this was a selection was to be made in a abridged form, I told the person who was involved in that not to include this, because istighfar is something without which Hazrat Masih Maud could not live. It is impossible. But he might not have said istighfar loudly before others. So if somebody didn't hear it, however big that companion be, his lack of knowledge should not be quoted, because it will create misunderstandings. So there are many other incidents in that book which have been wrongly included. And Hazrat Mian Bashir Ahmad Sahib himself realized it, that it was a mistake to include all that. Why? Not because somebody wanted to suppress truth, but because a false impression was created, which was not true. So if you suppress an evidence for the sake of suppressing truth, that is totally wrong. But if you suppress an evidence which is creating misunderstandings and exactly the opposite of truth is the impression it leaves, then that must be suppressed. There is no reason why you should say that, mention it to people who would misconstrue things later on. So those sorts of, that sort of rivayat, traditions are used generally for Rasulullah, so I am not using that. Narration are included in Sirat Mahdi. And Hazrat Bashir Ahmad Sahib once gave me 2 or 3 volumes and said that I have marked them where I think I shouldn't have included these things. They were meaningless, not only meaningless, but they were creating the wrong impressions totally. So you also go through that and suggest which ones should be left untouched and which should be removed, and advise me generally on this. But after some time, I returned those. I don't remember the advice I gave to him, submitted to him. But I returned them to him, and now Mirza Majid Sahib, his son, is working on this. And I told him, and I gave him the principles, that when you are preparing, you are reprinting a book, it is dishonest to leave things out. So don't make a reprint. You make an abridged form, and as such it should be published. And in that abridged form, these are the principal guidelines for you to choose or to reject certain things for inclusion. Well, I'm glad that you read that with application of mind and very acutely.
I read that, but the commentary after that was written that because he was a prophet of God, so he hasn't been saying istighfar so much as he has been saying.
Totally wrong, absolutely wrong. Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to recite istighfar so much, so often, that it was like food and water to him. So it's impossible, unbelievable, that Hazrat Masih Maud didn't stand in need of spiritual effort. Totally ridiculous. And I know in my house, I have been brought up in that house, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, everybody was in the habit of saying istighfar day and night. So how could it happen that Masih Maud didn't do it? Some people say istighfar loudly. And Hazrat Masih Maud said loudly only those prayers which he wanted to teach to others. And it was so for granted and understood that he didn't have to do that. So, but for istighfar, to conceive that Masih Maud didn't care or didn't have to do that, that is totally a rejectable idea. No sane man can accept it. Yes? Yes, please.
There are approximately 12 laws in Islam, 12 Imams who brought the Sharia or a law. Hazrat Masih was inclined towards the Sunni doctrine.
Yes.
So which one of the Imams out of the 12 would be more suitable to follow?
After Masih Maud has given his decision?
Yes.
What do you mean by yes? When Hazrat Masih Maud has given his decision that Imam Abu Hanifa is the best of all and he should be followed mostly, where is the question left now? Of following anyone else?
No, my meaning wasn't that I should follow somebody else other than Hazrat Masih Maud. But I wanted to get clear in my mind which of the 12 laws, Sharia, because in the present Muslim world, there are disputes.
In fact, there are 4 major schools of jurisprudence. And 12 out of the 12, the rest of 8 are just minor ones, insignificant ones. The 4 major ones are Hanafi, Hanbali, Shafi'i and Maliki. And they enjoy the greatest following all over the world. So of these, Hazrat Masih Maud preferred Hanafi. But he said that if there is a verse of the Holy Quran which categorically opposes the Hanafi view, or a tradition which you come across which categorically opposes the Hanafi view, leave the Hanafi view and accept the teachings of that verse or that tradition. And if you don't find anything there, and I have given a decision against the Hanafi ruling, then accept my decision and reject the Hanafi ruling. And if there is a situation where you have to think, then the ulama of Jamaat in general principle should get together and decide on that issue. But as a general principle, he advised the community to follow the Hanafi law, where all these things are not present. Yes, please, Doctor, and the last question.
Sir, as we know, God Almighty, Allah is Ghani.
Allah is what?
Ghani. Excuse my expression, couldn't care less for anybody.
That is not the meaning of that.
But at the same time, God Almighty wants His creation to praise Him most of the time. Could you kindly throw a light on that?
On that part, I have already thrown some light on when I discussed the question of worship. What was the meaning and significance of worship? And did it help God or help the worshipper? I explained that at some length, and I hope you were present. Or were you not?
Couldn't get us.
Couldn't get us?
I don't remember.
So that is right. Couldn't get us, not God. And the second part is, I also explained the meaning of Ghani in that respect. So you better listen to that recording. Instead of my repeating everything again, listen to that recording.
you did mention briefly, but
No. Quite.
I recollect that yes, alright, I'll listen to that again.
I also mentioned samad, what the samad means and why Allah is running and what is the meaning of that rina. If after listening to that, if you are left with some questions, you can repeat them and tell me that this is the aspect which you didn't touch on, so I'll explain that.